Yeah, I should
Let's
probably
test
look at.
this out.
Ah, let's see. Is it on the YouTube?
It's spinning right now. Come
No,
on.
please work.
I believe we just went live.
Did we? I did.
I,
I
I,
don't
I think
see
so.
anything. Oh, it's. Oh, I see. Oh my God.
We got some.
Hi guys.
All right.
Good morning.
Oh,
Can
I'm
you
seeing
hear us?
Facebook users as well, Peter.
Are you?
We're good.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So
Yay.
we have everybody in the chat. Okay, great.
Hi.
Yeah, this would be a good time to mention if you are on Facebook and you might be just shown as Facebook user. So if we can't talk to you specifically, that's why StreamYard requires that you have liked StreamYard or something like that. So forgive us if we say, hey, we have a question, we don't know who it's from, or something like that. Or you could say your name in the question. But we should introduce ourselves. There's the bread plush over there. Oh, nope, over there. Yeah, there we go. And so I'm Peter Vaughn. I am co-founder of Cardboard Alchemy with Brad Brooks. And you might have heard of this game called Flamecraft that was designed by my friend Manny Vega, and illustrated by the wonderful Sandara Tang over here. So we have a very fun stream today. I'm going to let Manny and Sandara introduce themselves, and we'll take it away.
Go ahead, Sandara. They're here to see you.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Sandara here, and this is the Bread Dragon plushie. I mean, this is the prototype of the plushie, right? So
yeah. Just as a first question, can you believe that you drew this creature and then now it's?
Yeah, it's always nice to see like something that you've just drawn on paper or in 2D, and then now it's a physical object. So it's always nice. So cute.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Awesome.
All right. Well,
okay, so
I'm Manny Vega. I designed Flamecraft with help from everyone here as well. And let's just jump into. We're gonna have a drawing of the. Have we announced what it was already?
We did say
no.
that
Did
the
we?
tailor shop was coming
All
up.
right. So she's gonna be drawing live the tailor shop, and it's called So Cute with
Yes.
EW.
Of course it is.
All right. So okay, so before I go into like just drawing the shop, I guess I should give you guys like a bit of background on how the art of Flamecraft came to be, and how it was developed, and some of the stuff that we thought about. All right. So
now I'm still learning the stream here, so just putting people's comments up, and I didn't mean to do that. But we'll do that later when we are ready for comments.
Yeah, I will. I know some of you guys have sent questions, so I will answer them. But let me talk about the art first. Okay, so I'm sure all of you guys have seen this picture before, right? So this is like the initial artwork that I did 3 years ago, right? Can you believe that? Okay, but before that, let me just show you guys like my art in general, because I've been drawing for a long time. So before Manny and Peter came along, this was the kind of art style that I'm usually I guess that I usually do, right? So they are more like your typical rendered style, and it's a lot more realistic, and the dragons in it are fiercer looking, with like the zombie dragons. I'm sorry, this one is a bit too scary. I don't know if there are kids watching. All right, but something like this one, this one, I guess you can almost say, is like a precursor to the plant dragons. It was like some old idea of mine where the dragons were part of the garden, or the area, the place, right? So, but anyway, my style originally was like this, and the style that you currently see for Flamecraft, it's actually what I usually use for sketching. Although I say sketch, but I just keep it really clean so that at least it's still presentable, right? So in the case, like if I have some kind of a little idea that I want to put it on paper first, I will probably sketch it out first in this form, before rendering it up, into my other in my other style. So the closest I can probably, I think this one will be the clearest representation. Okay, so you can see, like, for example, okay, these are not dragons, but I mean, it's just the style, right? So you can see that these animals, they have this line art style, which is what you see for Flamecraft, but they show the idea, and after which this is the rendered version. So it's the same idea, it's just presented differently, right? So we didn't pick this style to go for Flamecraft because everybody saw it as this first, right? So we decided to go with this, and also this style is quicker to produce, to work with, right? So anyway, this piece of artwork can almost be thought of as the key concept for the game, I guess. A key concept is something that, an image that encapsulates, or it holds the idea, the entire feel, and the concept of the whole game. So this is pretty much the key art for Flamecraft, because shows it shows the feeling that we want for the game, right? And around 3 years ago, I also actually drew out the dragon types, but they were a little bit different back then. But I guess you might recognize this scene, which I just utilized for one of the shortcuts. All right, so after I came up with this one, and then people were like, "Oh, it's so cute, this dragon. Does he work here and all that?" All right, so the idea was a little bit expanded into, yeah, what if these dragons, they did different jobs, and so it became like, so I sketched a few ideas out. Right, so back then it didn't go anywhere. They were just sketches that I put up for fun, and for a long while I didn't do anything with them. So these were the initial. This is the potion dragon. The potion dragons used to have a green coloring, but it was changed. The crystal dragon, and this guy who is just some random dragon. Later on, his coloration became the meat dragon. So the fancy dragons, they were a lot smaller and derpier looking back then, I guess. Right. So here was the idea that their flames are not hot, but you can shape it. Right, so it's like almost like kids love it because it's so colorful, and then it's like back then the idea wasn't so firmed up yet, and so like I thought of that. Oh, like, are they like pets? Do they help people work? But sometimes people can keep them as pets as well, and they can entertain the kids or something. I don't know. Right, and then this one was the forge dragons. Back then they were like so purple. All right, so like helping out, and the style was a little bit more, slightly more realistic as well. If you notice, for the Flamecraft game, is a more softer, and the color palette is not so dark. All right, so this one is still pretty hard, and this one where I sketch it out. So this guy pretty much is what we have now for the Iron Dragons. All right, this one not so much because it's not so purple anymore, because we don't want to mix up with the potion dragons. But this image is also quite interesting because it actually shows the iron dragons with actual weaponry, because back then I thought it was like a more your typical fantasy thing, but when Manny discussed it with me, I thought he had a very good idea, which was to keep it very grounded, and we keep all this fantasy sword fighting idea of the whole sword and sorcery idea, like keep it out of the town, and then instead of them crafting weapons and swords, they craft normal household objects. So it's very grounded, it's very low fantasy, and it's something that I actually hadn't thought or considered before, especially with regards to dragons, because usually when you see a dragon, you're kind of like, oh, they're very big and very fierce kind of thing. So even for myself, I was still very tied to the idea that that there are all these things. But for the Flamecraft game, I think what kind of brings a charm and kind of ties it together, especially with this image, is that there is none of this, even I wouldn't say like suggestion of violence, but suggestion that there is actually fighting and all that. So everything is kept, all that stuff is kept to a minimum, or actually we don't even really have it in the game, right? So I think that probably contributes to the feeling of the charm, I guess that's all I can say, or the feeling of safety in the village. Like there's no violence. There's no violence in this village. Yeah.
I think in order to get a fantasy village to have coffee, they have to not be fighting. You have to get there
Yeah.
first, end the war, and then everyone drinks coffee.
Yeah. So it is something. I have to say it's something unique, lah. Right, which is what interested me. When Manny first floated the idea. So anyway, here was the very early drawings that I did for the dragon types. Let me just extend it so you guys can see. All right, so from the early sketches, we try to clean up their design and make sure that each dragon type is how to say, identifiable. All right, because the problem with this style, while it is very cute and charming, is that it's very simplified, it's very stylized. Every dragon, right, has this rounded head shape, or almost every dragon has this rounded head shape like this, and they just have eyes and a mouth. There's nothing much that we can add in terms of detail and stuff. So one of the, I guess, challenges we had, or we spent a bit of time trying to decide how do we make these guys identifiable just by. So first, easiest is by looking at their colors. All right, so all the meat dragons, they have a red tint to them, or like a very strong red tint, right? So these are the meat dragons, right? The red is always combined with either orange or purple. If you look at a color wheel, all right. So red here, this is the color. So they always have accompanied by orange, or if you start red from up here, they're always accompanied by magenta or like a little bit purplish. They won't go all the way down to true purple because that's reserved for the potion. So that is how the meat dragons were designed. All right, so the fancies are like the kind of like the wild card in terms of their coloration, because they can be any color and they can have any head accessories, and they have so basically they are being identified by their body shape, which is that their wings are larger. They have the largest wings of all the dragons, and they usually have a little kind of decoration on their tails. All right, could be anything, but they have something. The rest of them, other than the leaf dragons, they don't have anything on their tail tips. Yeah. So that's the fancy. But usually you can tell it's a fancy because they are very colorful, or they have a weird coloration, and they have a lot of their fire around them, right? Because it's kind of like very illusionary, and they have the biggest flames basically, and very colorful as well. Okay, so the plant dragons are easy because they're always green and they always have leaves on them. All right, so and their horns actually, I try to style them more like branches. So sometimes you will see leaves growing on their on their horns. Right, so they're like branches. So this one is easy. The potion dragons, well, yeah, they this one I think went through the most iterations. Yeah, originally they did not have a crest. I think a lot of people, quite a few people remarked that they look very aquatic because on their heads we put like fin-like decorations on them. All right. I think Manny mentioned before, like we tried to make it so that like a potion bottle, the stopper on it, that kind of shape. Yeah. So yeah, the potion dragons, they are a little bit, but then they are the only ones that are kind of like bright purple color. So for them also, their coloration goes purple, so they can shade towards blue, or they can shade towards a little bit pinkish. All right, so they have a bit of gradient, and for them, they are unique. One of the unique thing is their paws, which are of a different color. So they are usually this cyan greenish color right here, or they are, I think, like going down to almost green, or like hovering around this color range. Yeah, because they mix the potions, right? So sometimes they don't use gloves. So well, their paws are protected by scales. So the scales just get a little bit discolored from all the stuff that they mix with their hands, but I guess they wash their hands, so that is hygienic. All right, so okay, the crystal dragons, these guys, they are pale colored, right? So they can be bluish or purplish, a tint of that, but they're always very light colored, and they usually have some kind of patterning on their heads. So these guys, they are like the most kind of posh. They like to dress up a little bit, or they like jewelry. So they always are either wearing some kind of earrings, or then they're not earrings, some kind of decoration on their horns, or on their neck, or on their tails. Right, so they will always have some kind of accessory on them. So and they are long in terms of body shape. These four guys are very close, but the crystal dragon, his body, he's long. His neck is longer than the rest, and his torso and tail are longer as well. His wings were reduced in size actually in the current artwork, because we want the fancy the wings to stand out more. All right, so for the bread dragon, they are the smallest. They are yellow, right? So the color we pick for them is yellow, so they look like bread, and they have the least amount of details on them. They're just like this basic round shape. Their horns are these little stubby things, very short horns, right? So they're the simplest of all the design. And the iron dragons, they are the largest, and I guess they're the ones that look most like an actual dragon. So they are very heavy. Their scales are very thick, because they work with all these dangerous metals and such. I mean, it's very different from, let's say, making a cake or something like that. So they look more armored, and and they are the biggest. And their coloration, they do come in several different tints as well. So but they are very desaturated. Right, so you will never see an iron dragon being like bright blue or bright purple or anything like that. They're always like very desaturated around this range. All right, to again, to give the hint of, like, they're working in smithy, and they're working with metals, that kind of metallic tone to them. So yeah, for the shape wise, the iron dragons and the meat dragons are the only ones with a rectangular head. Their head shape is like this and like this. Right, everybody else, they have a rounded shape like this. Yeah, their heads are all round. Okay, so because there's limited ways how we can make them different. Because another way that limits us is not just this very simplified stylized look, but also, like a lot of people have mentioned, they look so friendly and they look so cute. Is because their shapes are being restricted as well. There is a lot of curve and round shape to them. If we want to talk about just pure shapes alone, if you look at the shape, the most welcoming shape is a circle, a soft circle, right? So for the dragons themselves, you we did not draw their claws as being like this, right? Because a thin, sharp shape like this is not welcoming. It look dangerous, right? If we're just talking about the feel that this shape give us, it look dangerous. So as much as possible, I try not to have a dragon that have like claws like this, or horns that are long and thin. They will not have spikes like this, on their heads, even though that will give us something new to work at, because it make him look dangerous. So part of their design, like their hands even, all right, they always have this very soft and rounded shape. I mean, some things definitely have to end in a point, like the tips of their tails or their fingers. But instead of sharp like this, I always try to round it. All right. So instead of drawing a sharp triangle like this, it is a rounded triangle. So a lot of the shapes that I use within the game art itself have this rounded kind of feel to it, like a broad. We don't have it narrow but broad. Even for things like leaves, I try to draw them this way. I think something cannot be avoidable. Like sometimes leaves do have to be long like this, but I try to thicken it, right? So they have this kind of chubby look to them. So, but this itself also limit the the amount of shapes, the amount of designs we can give to the dragons. All right. So for their horns, even for, let's say, a rectangle, if I were to draw, the iron dragons or what, their head is not a super sharp square like this, but it's always a soft. Am I drawing too small? It's always a a softened rectangle. So the tip of their nose is always a little bit rounded, and if they have a chin, it's always being softened, like, oh, they have a little bit of horns growing on their chins or something like that, right? I guess this part is the only part that's sharp is like their teeth, I guess. So as much as possible, I try to keep it, having this design idea behind them, like their horns even. All right, so they're always short and thick and rounded. Like if you look at them, they always have this cylindrical shape to them, even though it's a horn, right? So if you look at it in 3D, the round circle is still there. All right, so from a art design standpoint, that's what makes them look appeal. I think I not sure if this makes sense, but then yeah, like these are the restrictions lah for art. Okay, so for the art style itself, also this brush itself contribute to it. So every single dragon artwork or shop artwork is being lined with this particular brush in Photoshop. I actually forgot where I got this from. It's like a pencil brush, and you can see it has a texture to it. If I zoom in really close, all right, it's not a hard line like this. All right, so this one is one of the standard brushes in Photoshop, and yeah, I could do the line art with this kind of brush definitely, but it looks hard. It has this very hard edge to it, whereas this pencil brush, it doesn't. It has a very soft edge because it has this grainy feel. So even the line work itself, I try to go with something that make it feel soft and fuzzy. All right, and for the actual coloring itself, I go with a watercolor feel because, again, out of all the traditional mediums, watercolor feels the softest and the lightest. It has this element of very light and translucency. All right, because something like acrylic or oils, like my other my other style, which is, let's say, something like this, which might be closer to, if we were to match it with traditional medium, we're closer to oils or acrylic, which by itself is very heavy medium, right? So there's a weight to the rendering, whereas if you do with watercolor, it feels very light, right? So to me, watercolor is the lightest of all the traditional mediums. All right, so which is why I again pick with this style, right? That I didn't say, oh, let's change it and do something else. So yeah, so pretty much that is the reasoning that go behind the designs of the shops and the dragons. Okay.
Well, this might be a good time to take a question or two before we go into another section.
Yes.
Let's see what we have here. Here's one about the art book. Will the book and the add-ons be Sandara's early Flamecraft artwork?
Oh, I guess we can put them in, right? We have a section. You can have a section where we have like the early stuff, I guess.
I mean, the early stuff is great, so I agree with that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, like maybe just a couple of pages of, because there isn't much early stuff anyway. It's just some handful of sketches I did long ago. Yeah.
Here's one from Manny. In projects like this, how deeply does the art affect the game mechanics and vice versa?
Okay, so this interesting question. So to me, regardless of whether it's a physical game like Flamecraft or it's a digital game, the fact that it's a game itself, gameplay to me always come first, right? And art is there to support gameplay. All right, so it's no point if the art is like super nice. Yes, it will draw people in first, but if the gameplay is if the art doesn't support it or the art clashes with the gameplay, then yeah, of course it's not good, right? So for the idea that Manny had, where everything is very peaceful, it's very friendly, it's very opening, so the art style, it must support that. All right, the fact that he said no weapons ever, no violence. All right, then yes, because it's true to the vision of the design. All right, and then when I'm doing the shop art, doing the shops, like, okay, it's the bakery or whatever. And this is true for all games, all right? So what we get is the designers will give us the document that says, okay, for this particular piece of artwork, I need certain things in it. I don't know if it's okay to show it. I did crop it out for the tailor.
Sure.
Right. So this is, okay, for example, okay, you guys can
And how long,
see.
just so I know before we get into the, so we do more questions, how long do you need for the tailor shop so I leave enough time?
Oh no. Okay, I better get onto it. So maybe about half an hour. I'll talk
Okay.
as
All
I
right.
go
So
along.
we'll take more questions at the end as long as we have time.
Yeah, I will just use this and segue to the tailor shop. Okay, so for example, this is the description that Manny gave me for the tailor shop. It's not like I anyhow just draw anything that I want. All right, so it's always designed first. So the designers will always give this. So this one, so he will describe what he wants. All right, so he
Wait.
wants a fancy dragon.
Wait a
Blah,
second.
blah.
Did Manny write this has to be adorable on everyone?
Yeah.
No. No. I just take it for granted he intends all of them to be adorable.
I mean, this one had to have an extra special. It's called So
because
Cute.
because it's called
Please.
So Cute. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So basically, I read through and I see what he wants. So he wants a fancy dragon, okay, and he wants the human in there, okay. So he has 2 iron dragons in this. So there's one iron dragon and another one. So very excited. Mirrors behind. I don't have space for mirror. Okay. So the thing is that there are some keywords in here that I need to take note of, being the number of dragons and like what are they doing, because it ties into the shop powers, right? I mean, the shop is not there to look pretty, but is
It's there to look pretty.
it has powers, and the artwork should support that as well, right? So for any game that is made, the artists always get these kind of design notes from the designers, and we should follow it and not just draw anything we want. All right, so let me just
I'll just throw in there too that she does come back at me a lot of times and tell me I can't do this and I want to draw this. So don't let her trick you into thinking I had all the choices here.
Yeah, but
Process,
right?
It's a process. It really is.
One thing good about working with you guys is that actually we do get the back and forth. In my previous experience, is like, this is the design document, this is the style guide, okay, you go do it, and there's minimal of discussion, right? But this project, I've never worked on a board game project before actually, and it's really cool because there's so much discussion. So if I feel that, hey, I can't squeeze in so many things into the scene, then Manny's like, okay, it's fine, you can have less or something, or we can change stuff. So things are always up for discussion, but as much as possible, I do try to I do try to follow what he has, because I know it's important to the gameplay. Okay, so anyway, let me talk about the tailor shop. Okay, you guys cannot see this, but all right. So how I go about designing, drawing the shop is okay. So first of all, this thing that you guys see, this is the shop template. I mean, you guys have seen the shop cards, right? So I have this as a guide. This is a template, and I need it here because it tells me where I can and cannot draw. So looking at something like this is let me just drop the opacity. You guys can still see it, right?
By the way, someone was asking this question.
Yeah.
The time to design a shop. I mean, when we're not rushing it, when we're not like doing it on the stream, taking how much time to.
Yeah, it's going to be a sketch. I'm not be able to finish it.
Yeah, it depends on whether it's sketch or we need final. Obviously, final takes a bit more, but
yeah,
there are some scenes where it's more outside and she's drawing a lot of buildings and a lot of people, so it takes a little longer. We try and make them in shops. That helped.
Yeah. For this demo, I will just be doing a color sketch, because the actual final line work takes much longer. I think I can probably show like what the sketch looks like. You guys can see. Let me see. Bakery. All right, so like for example, this was the initial bakery sketch. It's really rough, but it does show you already what the final artwork will be very close to this. All right, so for the tailor shop, this is the limit of what I can do within this short time frame, something like this. All right, so it's gonna be like that. What program am I using? I'm using Photoshop, and a Wacom tablet. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, back to this. Okay, so I need this template because it tells me where I can and cannot draw. All right, so obviously, whatever main action that should be taking place will have to be around this area. It's a pretty narrow space actually, right around here, because only until here, because here is where the shop name is going to go, right? And here is where the shop icon, the resource icon is going to go. So I can't draw anything over here because it will just get covered up. At most, I have until around this space, right? So this area is usually the most important areas. All right. Yeah, Wacom tablets are pretty good. I mean, like they last for years. Not to advertise for them, but the quality of the tablet is pretty good. Yeah, so usually the main action takes place here, and the rest are just uh, periphery space. So if there's any extra props, they will go on the side instead. Okay, so usually before I start actually sketching out anything, I will go and do some research first. Okay. So research is important because for now this is a tailor shop, but I don't actually know anything about sewing, because I don't sew at all. I just buy my clothes. All right. So quite a few of these shops actually have specific skills, right? It's people showing a specific skill. So and in a specific kind of work area. So I don't have experience in a lot of this. So I need to go and look for references first. Okay, so that's important so that I know what is in, let's say, a tailor shop. What are the kind of tools that they use, and roughly what should look like. So for example, something like this, which I thought was interesting, is that this thing where they put their threads, I don't even know what this thing, like the spool or something. They have a rack for it, and you can see it in this one as well. They actually have this rack, and then they slot. Initially I thought they just dump it on the table or they keep it in a drawer or something, but apparently it's, yeah, apparently they do have it. And how do they keep the bolts of cloth, right? So here they have stashed it under their table. This one is not the tailor shop. All right, or they could prop it upright or something like that. So all these small things I try to take note of, but I'm not, sometimes I'm always afraid I get these kind of things wrong, because a person who is a tailor, or a person who is a barista, will be able to tell whether or not I got it right or wrong. For example, the potion dragon that pours the coffee, right? Initially I drew the pattern of the coffee wrong. Do I have it? I just want to show you guys, because it seems like really not important. Like why are we, it feels unimportant, like very small and unimportant details, but all of these actually build up to the strength of the design, I guess. All right, so what happened was that like the pattern as he paused is wrong, right? So because I don't do cappuccino art, I don't know what they call latte art, right? So I don't know in which direction should this pattern actually go. All right, so actually it's wrong. It should be the other way, because when you pour, the trickle of milk pulls that shape or something like that. All right, so all these are small details. So if you work at Starbucks, hey, you've done it wrongly. So I
Did
try
someone
my
say that on your Facebook page?
yeah, my friend told me. She's like, "Hey, did you know that you did it wrong?" I was like, "Oh." Yeah, and I thought I referenced from photographs, but because the photo is not moving, so I couldn't tell which direction the milk was being poured. Right, so I got that wrong. So that's not good. All right, it's a small detail, but like all these
I
small
still
details.
love that art. I guess it matters if you know, but I don't.
Yeah, it matters. It
Charming.
matters if you know. Yeah, it matters if you know, but which is important, because there's definitely some people out there who will know all these things. right? So like I always tell my students, reference is important, especially extremely specific things like playing a musical instrument, right? Like somebody who plays the instrument will know if you got it wrong or not.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, exactly, because from what I see, people on the Discord and whatnot, they've been just scrutinizing all the artwork. Okay, so anyway, let me get to the tailor shop. Okay, so I've done some very rough sketches first. So what I always do is I will sketch out the floor space, or the amount of space where the dragons can move first. So here is the tailor shop. I try to give it like a little window area. So this part is supposed to be like a glass window. All right, and here's supposed to be a window as well. I maybe put some, like, what do you call this? Window pane, window grills. All right, so roughly this is the perspective. Again, for the shop cards, they aren't very extreme perspective. Usually like just 1 point perspective, because it's a simple style, and it's a lot of things to cram into one tiny card. Like, okay, they're not tiny, they're jumbo cards, but still, the actual card is around this size, right? So which means that I cannot make it too complicated as well. Otherwise, some of the details will be lost. All right, so this is the.
By the way, Sandara, check this out.
Mhm.
This comment from Dylan.
Who's to say a dragon can't perform?
Right?
Yeah, but their
Magic.
magic. But their magic is the fire. It's not their arms or the milk or something.
That's the art.
Yeah. So okay. So anyway, this is the available background space that we have, and then I will also kind of very roughly sketch in where the people and the dragons should go, while trying to keep in mind not to bang into any of the UI elements. Okay, they're kind of a little bit big. Just reduce their size. Okay, so this is like the composition step of the image, right? I try to make sure of all these details first, because I don't want to have to change it later. But there were some cases where we had to move things around, because it was just not working with the UI elements. All right, so yeah. Okay, so once this is done, I will then add in the kind of sketch in a cleaner sketch. All right. So even though I'm going to be again cleaning this up even later, I do like to not make it too messy, so that Peter and Brad and Manny actually have something proper to look at, rather than like just a random bunch of lines, right? Because if I were to give them this, they will be like, what? They will be, that is not adorable.
You know how to get like instant approvals. It looks amazing, so there's no notes.
Yeah, another nice thing is the instant approvals. Usually there's a little bit more like back and forth with the art director for other projects. But usually it's quite okay as well, because if the description is clear, then there's not really all that much back and forth required.
I think too we've gotten into like a rhythm of knowing what.
Yeah. After a while, you kind of know like what should be there and what shouldn't.
And I wanted to touch on one thing you were saying, that I know there's not a lot of space, but they are jumbo cards. And one of the huge things we decided early on was that on a normal card, even a tarot size card, it just wasn't enough space to show everything.
Yeah.
So like we had to make that decision early, because they're bigger, they take up a lot of space. So we wanted to show as much of the art as we could. And I mean, obviously it worked.
Yeah. I was very glad that you guys went with the jumbo cards, and I did not realize how big the cards actually were until I saw the prototype copy. I was like, wow, this is great. It's so big. I've never seen such huge cards before, by the way. Like the previous card games that I did, they're just normal size cards, right? So, so
like the tarot cards just get longer, and it just makes the space awkward. But they're nice. But the minute you showed me one of these on the horizontal, I I think me and Peter were sold, right, Peter? Like it was,
Oh, yeah.
it was, how do we figure to make the game after this? Because we have to move stuff, icons around to make it work.
I mean, I think it was a scene. It was a scene with an outdoor, when you can kind of see in the perspective into the cobblestone streets of a town. And I was like,
Oh.
yeah, how could we cut that out? I mean, if you have to show it the other way, you would lose that, you know.
Yeah. My very first attempts at trying to do a card, which was like, I realized that I did not know how to do graphic design because my shop UI was terrible.
Did you realize that it changed everything about the game when you turned it horizontally?
Oh, really? You did?
Yes, 100%. All the icons, everything had to move, but it was worth it.
I'm so sorry, Manny.
Oh no! It made it all worth it. Look at this. Look how much space you got in this tiny.
Yes. Okay, so I was being very lazy there, and I just flipped like half of the image that I drew. So in the final, because it's just a sketch, so I don't want to just redraw the other side of the window, which is the same. In the final artwork, I will redo it again by hand because even though it's the same, it's flipped, right? There will be small so-called imperfections in the brushstroke, so it doesn't look symmetrical. All right, it saves time, but yeah, it's not a good look for when you want. You don't want that 100% symmetry, right? So I think the shop window needs to have some kind of decoration, but I can see that it's gonna not show up here, but at least on the other side we will be able to see it.
It says here, a dragon should have a tape measure too, and/or pins in its mouth as fitting someone or sewing.
Yes, definitely. I also have something else that make it look like a tailor.
And someone was asking about the playmat as well, and it all has come from it. Like once the jumbo-sized cards in landscape form materialized, then we measured it out, and then we worked hard to get it down to a manageable table size. Because a lot of the gameplay takes place on the board, on the shops, so they all have to be able to fit. We can't really stack, because if you stack, then you don't see all the dragons, and we want to see all of the dragons.
No wonder
We do.
The map is so
100%.
long. It's the fault of the shops. Shouldn't have done it horizontal.
It's not the fault. It's because you want to see them.
Yeah, but because shops is hard to draw in the vertical space, though, it's really hard to draw vertical. Like to show a shop with vertical space. It's difficult.
The first idea, I guess, was really more of a shop window, right? So we were just
like a shop.
But it just, all you saw was a little tiny slice. We want to see everything.
Yeah. And the people are gonna be okay. So the very nice board with the spools, unfortunately, is gonna be like just at the side, because if I remember correctly, there were like pegs and there were these little spools of thread that were on it. I'll just very roughly just duplicate them. Because I don't want to draw them one by one, so just duplicate. And I'll just erase some off so that it looks like. Well, I guess some of this will not be visible in the final card, but if you buy the art book, you will be able to see it. Because the art book will have the art that doesn't have the card UI there. So yeah. But anyway, for most of these shops, there's nothing much at the bottom of the shop. Like here, it's always, this space is always kind of empty because the UI is actually there, and I just didn't put anything there because it takes time to draw stuff, and and if you're not going to see it anyway, so there's no point having it. I guess there should be some stuff.
We'll see it in the art book, so you do fill out. I noticed that, like, for example, on the deli, the bottom, you don't really see the bottom, but there are still details there. There's the pottery shop has amazing details on the bottom.
Yeah. So usually for the bottom space, what I do is the objects are in close up, so there's going to be some space, some stuff here as well. All right, like some objects placed on the table, and they just act as a framing device as well. But there are some gaps in the UI where you can sort of see a little bit, so I guess that's good enough. As for the composition, mostly the characters are in the midground. In the background, because it's a shop, usually there is no background, far background, which is this area. But here, because there is an open window, we will be able to see, like, maybe we can see a little bit of the other shops. So maybe the street outside, and it wouldn't be very detailed because we're looking at it through a window, right? So maybe there's a shop opposite and a little bit of stuff, maybe some plants. Yeah, but nothing too detailed. Just some vague shapes that you can make out. They look like something, right? But it's not overly detailed, right? So that's the far background. The characters are usually in the midground, and in the foreground is where I put all these big objects, these big items. Yeah. So at least there's a sense of depth. So if you look at it this way, there is a sense of distance, even though everything is very close up.
By the way, here's 2 fun comments. We got this one.
Yeah.
That's awesome sounding. But also this one, which, cracks me up because we were going to name the town, but we didn't name the town. We just call it Flamecraft sometimes. So
yeah, we did not name the town.
So if we get into the story, we're going to need a name. I think the original idea we thought of is that the Flamekeepers would go from town to town, right, Manny? So
yeah, so we decided to, instead of naming it, that the idea is that they're going from town to town, helping place the dragons in their forever homes and making all the shops work. So every game you're playing is like in a new town with new people and new dragons, even though they have similar names. So
I do not have a name for the town either. I usually don't name the things that I draw. I always get people asking, like, oh, this character that you've done, what is their name, or this place or this dragon? I don't know. I don't name them. It's up to you. You guys can name them whatever. You can name the town whatever you want.
Oh, that could be fun.
Yeah, we want to hear your town names.
Town name.
So I'm going to ask in the next update, what is the name of your town? When you play, put it on your table. Where are all the dragons? Where are they?
So on the subject of naming, a lot of people have had comments about the shops and stuff, and most people, I think, are pretty happy with it. And we came back and forth on a lot of the names for shops and whether they should be real or not. But I think I won that argument when I said, like, every D&D campaign I've ever played in has the most ridiculous named shops and taverns around, and it has proven out with the responses people have given us. So I think it works. I don't know. You tell us. Towny McTown? Yes. Towny McTown Town.
Towny McTown. That's great.
Nice. We have someone was asking before on the Facebook page, is there a lore tidbit you want to get out there but don't think anyone would think to ask?
No, I don't know. Is there any lore that we have? Well, I do have, but I don't want to say it. It's a secret.
That's fair. I think one of my favorite things you ever said was that the potion dragons' paws were different colored because they play with potions all day. And I think even if I wasn't in love with the art before that, that's when I knew exactly what the town had to be like. The potion dragon paws. Yeah.
I was afraid that people would say that, oh, it's unhygienic because they're dipping their paws into your coffee or something like that.
All right. Let me see what else we got here. Was there anything in particular that led you to the cute style for Flamecraft? Or I guess we kind of went over it, that it was a little bit easier.
There's 2 reasons. One is the charm, and the other is it's a quick style. Because there's only me doing the art. Oh, I remember somebody was asking about the enchantment cards, right? Like we should draw the food on it, but I was like, no, I can't do that. So much. They were like, for every enchantment, the object that the enchantment gives.
Yeah,
like,
we might have to tell everyone that's going to be a very, very large stretch goal. It's a lot of art to do. The shops are the most important piece. We've got dragons still, fancies, the town mat still, the box, the rule book. There's so many pieces of art all over the place.
Yeah, I'm not going to draw the empanadas or whatever those things.
Man.
Okay, so anyway,
I like
everyone who's enjoying this stream can jump in and defend us on that point when anyone says, well, I want more art. And you say, there is amazing art. It's already in the shops and everything. And that's where we're pouring it all in the spot.
Okay, so anyway, the background here is already kind of sketched out. All right, so what I've done is I've made the lines not black, but I'm making them kind of like a lightish brown. Actually, maybe I should make it kind of cyan. Okay. So I'm changing the line work color here. Somebody actually asked a good question is like, how do I make sure that the characters stand out and not get overpowered by the background? So the fact that black lines like this is very strong, right? The black color is a very, very strong color. So this is only the background. There's going to be characters here. And, you know, if everything was in black, the lines would fight for attention. So the background is always secondary to the characters. So what I always do is I lighten the line art for the background elements. All right. So obviously the stuff in the background that is nearer to us will have darker lines, right? Like for example, here in the foreground, but it's okay because the UI actually covers it. But by making this background line light, right, they will not overpower the characters later on, and the characters will have the full black outline, right? So that is how it's being controlled. One with the line, and the other being values, which I'll go through later when I do the colors. Okay, so this is it for the background is done. All right, so and it's light as well. So I will just drop the opacity on this bunch of characters and try to get them in. Okay, so now I will try to draw the dragons properly. They shouldn't just be blobs. Okay. So actually for this demo, I have already I have sketched out the dragons because I was afraid I didn't have time to think. All right, so these are the very rough sketches that I have for the dragons. So these iron dragons, they're supposed to be wearing clothes, and I know you haven't seen them other than wearing an apron at most. All right, so the dragons, they don't usually wear clothes, but or at most a vest. But for this tailor shop, they have to be wearing something. All right, so I have designed some kind of clothing for them. They look a little bit more fantasy because I didn't want to give them human clothing, which wouldn't really fit because they had tails and they have wings, so they can't really wear like a pants because their tails are so big, you know, and their wings get in the way, so they can't really wear like a t-shirt or something because the head is so big you can't fit it over your head. So it always has to be something that goes over their shoulders. All right, so it is something like this. So you know, if they had to have fabric, and then it would be like this, where it's let's see, where it's one piece here and then one piece on their back, and because of and their wing space for their wing, and then there is a buckle to hold it. So it's kind of like a t-shirt, but you have to buckle it or something or button it somehow. All right, so at least it makes more sense for their anatomy. All right, so this guy is the tailor, right? So yes, holding measuring tape, check. Pin in the mouth, check. All right, pin cushion on the scale for easy access, check. And then scissors in his pocket at the, I don't know, the thing for unpicking the strings in the other pocket, which but you cannot see the tip because he kept it inside there. All right, so that's the tailor dragon. So usually when I design the dragons, they don't really, most of the shops don't really require this level of design to it, but for this case, because it's going to be a demo and because they are a little bit more special in terms of the things that they are going to be doing, so I draw them out first.
The other thing that I was going to say is that I love how sometimes the game informs art, art informs the game, goes back and forth, whatever. So if we were saying, oh, we want the shop to be this way, but we leave a dragon open, and then a dragon comes in that we didn't know plant dragon was going to be in the scene, or an iron dragon, then all of a sudden it might change. Oh, this gameplay's got to have an iron dragon that can slot here, which will then change, possibly how we balance another shop. So it's very interesting sometimes how that works out. Like, I didn't know the tailor shop was going to be iron dragons until we made the iron pun joke. That I
the ironing, right?
The ironing, yeah.
I'm 10 steps ahead on the puns.
Okay, good.
Sandara's 10 steps ahead on the prep. That's what someone commented. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the pizza coven, that one. It's like sometimes it's like, oh, you just see it, It's like, it's the perfect description.
That was one where Manny suggested the name, and I said, I don't know if there's witches. I don't know. And then you say that you say, hey, Sandara, what do you say? And then
witches.
Boom, it looks, it's amazing. It comes to life.
Yeah, it's like this town is more like for NPCs. Like, if you play a game, this town will be where all the NPCs live. But there's definitely magic in this town. Like you do see some wizards, wizardly or magical types here and there. Like the girl in the jewelry shop, right? So she's there. And she obviously look very magical.
We did include more. Go ahead.
What? More bread?
We included the lore about that the wizards created these guys long ago. So there's still some wizards hanging out, taking care of things, making sure everyone's cool.
Yeah. There's definitely more to this world than we show in this game. But for this game purposes, I guess this is good enough. This is all you need, really, right? Like we shouldn't clutter it up with too much of all this stuff anyway. Just keep the idea, the core idea it's there already, so we don't need to complicate it even more. Okay, I'm just following what I sketched because.
There's a lot of questions about a board game shop. Now, I'll tell you that when we first suggested that, one of the things we keep in mind when we're doing these is there fire there, right? Is there flame there? And that's one of the reasons why the board game shop was a difficult one. And we also want to do a promo for the Dice Tower. So when we thought about it, and Manny, of course, put his pun hat on and came up with the Spice Tower, that became the board game shop. So we don't have the art close up. Maybe I'll do an update where I show all of the spices on the shelves, but it's full of board game puns, all the names of classic board games you've heard of. So that's our homage to board games in the spice shop.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of like very cool suggestions, but the thing is that this game and the design, it has a very clear theme, and we can't just add in stuff because sometimes they don't fit the theme, so we can't add it in. Like, for example, all the jobs that these dragons do, we try as much as possible to have them fit what their dragon type is. And like a board game shop, I don't know, like maybe plant dragon, fancy dragons, I guess could work.
Yeah. Fancy dragons might work there because they like to play, right?
Yeah.
But that said, since you mentioned that, we are still asking all the backers for shop ideas, because you never know when we might stumble upon one. For example, the glassblower shop was one that everyone was suggesting. Now we actually had already started drawing that one, which was unlocked because everyone did such an awesome job liking our Board Game Geek page. But the other suggestions we've got, we're writing them all down, and there's going to be a shop at the end that is like an audience pick that we're going to completely consult with Manny and Sandara and pick one of the ones that everyone's been suggesting that we haven't already done, because there are some that are being named that we already have in the game or are working on.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. Yeah, the crystal shop, I didn't want to say it, but when someone says, I really want a tailor shop, I was like, well, just hold on a second, because it's coming.
Well, I mean, the list of shops was extensive.
Oh, yeah, we could do so many, right?
Yeah.
I need to update the shop list. The update that I posted was just to get us the live stream. But what I want to do next is update the shop list again with how many we're at, because I believe if we're not at 30, we might be over 30 shops, but we're pretty close if not, which is amazing. This is amazing, because you're going to deal it up and you're not going to get the same game every time. One time you might have the tailor and another time you might have the bank. I love it too. There's puns and jokes being said here. We got
damn it. Competition. So we got some questions here about which type of dragon is your favorite and which one do you like drawing the most?
Oh, I think currently that fancy, what's his name, Starburst is my favorite right now. But I like drawing the bread dragons because they're very simple and easy to draw.
They're easy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because you don't have
They're
to think
small.
so hard. Yeah, they're small, right? And then it's not like the fancy dragons where you have to oh no, what head decoration should I give them, or what pattern should I do? So it's you have to think a little bit more.
Here's a great answer for what type of dragon is your favorite.
Yes.
Yes.
Well done. Well, I can say with certainty that mine is the meat dragon. So,
yeah.
Except for also the iron dragon, and the potion, and the bread. So, someone was also asking, are there any dragon hybrids? And I know we've talked about this one in a silly way, but do you want to answer that one?
No, there are no dragon hybrids. I mean, I guess it would be nice to have, but it's just too complicated to think about. Then there will be hundreds upon hundreds of. I don't know.
We'll save that for like an app when it's combine these dragons and then you unlock another one.
It will be endless.
Well, I mean, there's 10 million Pokemon, so we got a long way to go to catch up.
Yeah.
How about this one? This one seems like you would like this. Is it hard to keep a simpler, adorable art style and not go all out like your full illustrations?
I wouldn't say it's difficult. It's just you just have to approach it differently. So it's easier in a way because in a more complex style, you have to think about more things like the lighting, the material, and all that. Whereas in this case, it's very straightforward. Yeah. So I'm sorry. What was the question again? I was concentrating on trying to fix this dragon, and
No, that's fine. The question was, is it hard to keep the simpler style and not go all out?
No, it's not hard to keep the simple style.
I will say that it's impossible to keep up with the pace that everyone is setting for us. So luckily we went with the simpler art style because it's the only way we're actually able to match the speed in which you guys are coming in. So
yeah. I mean, it was shocking.
I mean, drawing and even going through the list of stuff and making sure we're not overstepping a power or an idea that we had somewhere. We don't want to make a mistake along the way and tell everyone. So we're doing our best to give Sandara our time, get it all ready. No.
Oh my gosh, I just got some exciting news about more languages.
Oh,
We're going to have such an amazing update. The next update, we're going to talk about more languages for Flamecraft.
That's good.
That's exciting. More places for dragons to go in the world. And the answer to that question is yes. We just got confirmed for Japanese.
Oh my god, really?
Yes. We have a Japanese partner.
I just learned that myself.
Which is extremely, extremely exciting.
That's amazing.
And Deanna, there are going to be more social goals, so we're working on them.
Yes, guys, there's only like one of me. The Kickstarter was like going so fast.
Well, the other thing that I want to bring up, because it was a question earlier and I can't find the question now, but I've thought it myself, which is, you know, how do you feel about the comparisons to Studio Ghibli when you get those? Speaking of, you know, a big property in Japan.
Oh.
Was it ever an influence for you, or do you like that world, or?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I've watched like every single one of their movies. You know, it's a Studio Ghibli art has been like a major influence, you know, on the things that I draw. You know, the way they construct their stories, their art style. Yeah, of course.
Okay,
so
great.
yeah, of course, I'm happy that, you know, people see it like, oh, you know, it's a Studio Ghibli style is fine. It's a, you know, their style is very heartwarming and nice, and, you know, obviously Miyazaki has put in a lot of thought into the background and the world of whatever, you know, film that he's doing. Everything has been meticulously planned. Everything makes sense in that world. You know, he doesn't. There's nothing that's. Yeah, it's basically that is like one of the top animation studios out there. So.
It's awesome. Yeah, well, this is exciting.
Yeah, and I don't know if Sandara watched the video, but the Dice Tower gave a shout out, and Tom said this might be one of his top 10 art games ever. So, congratulations to you.
Thank you. I'm glad he liked it.
Yeah, they do a lot of fun top 10s. I think when this game is out, they said, "Oh, we can't put it on the list yet because it's not out." But that was a very nice comment.
Yeah, it really was. I'm so glad that, you know, people like this.
There it is.
Like this game so much. I was quite surprised. You know. So here's the tailor. He's like this skinny, nervous guy. So, you know, the fancy dragon. The expression I want to give him is like he's very serious about it. You know, he's concentrating really hard.
There's a floating head.
There's a what? Floating head. In some of the shops, they almost wanna, you know, I almost want to make it feel like the dragon is the one in charge, and the humans are just, you know, they're just trying their best to keep up, or trying to help out the dragon.
Well, how about this question? Are the dragons born as masters of their craft, or is there somewhere they go to learn how to bake and forge, etc.?
Oh, all right. So, I mean, like when they go to the shop, usually there's like a dragon there already. So I guess the new dragons kind of start as apprentices or something, I guess, and then they get taught what to do. Yeah, like even though they are born, you know, with their innate flame ability, but maybe they can't control it that well yet or something. So yeah, so somebody has got to teach them, right?
I feel like in this shop, it was the other way around, like you said. And I did see someone's suggestion for the name of the fancy dragon as Taylor with a Y, and I approve.
You mean like this?
Yes. I think Taylor started this shop, and then other people came to work for him. Look at that face.
Yeah. The other shop is I think the crystal shop, the first crystal shop, right? The crystal starter, where the glass dragon just looks. he's with a book, and I'm sorry, the neighbors are banging
I was
upstairs.
going to say, is this actually happening in the tailor shop right now? They're constructing the tailor shop while we're constructing the tailor shop. It's awesome. Wait, there's an iron dragon outside, and
He's banging away.
Well.
I don't know what my neighbor is doing. Tailor apron. I probably have to go and look at this apron.
I like
Very
this.
sure.
I like this question from Xwin1. Do we ever get dragons want to do their crafts than what their breaths allow? Oh, to do crafts that what their breaths allow. Do we get iron dragons who want to be herbalists?
Oh, I don't know. I've never considered that before. You guys are asking like questions that I've never even thought about.
I mean, so in my head canon, which none of this is canon until Sandara says it is, but we design things like the greenhouse with iron and crystal and plants in mind. And I feel like the greenhouse is where this iron dragon would go. He builds it. He gets a buddy, a plant dragon, to help him set up, and he maintains it. And that's how he grows plants. That's how I would see it.
Yeah, they probably help each other, right? Because since they talk to each other. So.
Jeez, look at that.
I always get very lazy when I reach the bottom part of the drawing because I know it's going to be covered by the UI, so I don't put in so much effort into like this particular space as opposed to like the top of it. All right. Okay, I'm pretty sure Manny will tell me to move everybody up because there is a lot of available space up here. So just shift everyone up. Okay.
We don't want to mess with Taylor's hair too much. That glorious hair has to be in.
Oh yeah. And I have to move him down. So it's a lot of this kind of fiddling with the positioning because of the UI. So yeah, even for other games that I've worked on, they always give us this template first, so that we make sure the art elements don't bang into the UI. But in this case, it's a lot of things going on. So.
There's an interesting one because we know some more backstory.
Mm-hmm.
So the world is created to be happy and whimsical. Does that mean there is no army or no soldiers / wars ever going on?
Oh, well, I think you can. I don't know. You can take this question, man. I don't know what I can say.
In her original drawings, she definitely had some dragons that were called war dragons, and they're bigger, and they were trained to go to war.
Yeah.
And we didn't remove them from the canon. We just thought that they wouldn't be hanging out in the town and just in shops. So if there is an RPG, if there is another game, they're definitely going to see some kind of conflict or something like that. Then the war dragons will come in. But as of right now, this town is happy, and what they need is flame keepers in order to talk to the dragons and make everything delicious and cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, part of it was we were working on something which may come back later, but we were talking about what a dragon, like a big elder dragon, would look like coming in, and that's when we were working on the trailer for the Kickstarter and talking about whether or not we would illustrate the big dragons as well, whether or not those would come in. So there's an interesting place to go possibly on discovering where those dragons are, if they're still around, that kind of thing, which is kind of a fun idea.
You're telling them all this already, then they will demand for all this in the
Oh yeah, no one asked for that on the Kickstarter, please, because we're working on this cute little town first, I tell you.
You're gonna give them, and then they will be like, "Where is the big dragons? We demand the big dragons."
Well, luckily, you have a lot of big dragons in your portfolio. So if you want to see big dragons, go to DeviantArt. I'll leave a link. If you want to see the most amazing dragons in all the world, Sandara draws those all the time.
Have you? I didn't want to get too far into this because I want to ask the question. What was? I mean, are you just laying out the light? Is that what you did with the colors in the back?
Yeah. So this one establishes the color scheme that I want to go for in the background. So I always do this gradient first. So this kind of locks the, as you say, the lighting and the color for the background. A lot of the shops, they have a very warm tint to them, like browns and yellows. So every now and then I like to try to push the tint more towards the blues and greens. So in this case, for the tailor shop, I want to go for a slightly more light and bluish kind of tint. So that's what I'm laying out first. And then later on, I will color the individual objects, I guess, like the window frames. They all obviously need to have their own color. But yeah, this is like a, if you think of it like watercolor, this is like the first wash of watercolor that you do, right?
Cool.
Yeah. And then after which you layer on. So the fact that I pick watercolor as the style to go for, it also informs into like, how the image is being colored and how all this is done. It's just it's like how you would do it traditionally, except this is just digital. Let me just turn off the dragon so I can see what I'm doing. Yeah. So if you were to paint in watercolors, you would do this wash first. All right. Then after which you would slowly layer on, and because of the transparency of watercolor, this base color that I've laid out is not lost. So of course, digitally, it's not like a paintbrush, although there are some art programs that do replicate that design. But this particular brush that I'm using is pressure sensitive. So if I don't press too hard, the color comes out light. So whatever color that is underneath it, it kind of blends the two colors together. I'm not explaining this very well, but yeah.
No.
So even here is becoming a little bit brownish, right? So even on the color palette, instead of sticking with this particular green cyan color that I've been using, I will try to move the color range lower towards the yellow so that it turns a little bit warmer actually as it reaches this warmer part of the wall. So if you were to do it traditionally, then of course you would go mix the color because they're already on the palette, right? But digitally we can't. So I try to do it manually for this art style that I'm using.
By the way, this is a cool comment right here. Sandara designed a tattoo sleeve for me a couple years ago, and it's very peaceful and serene. And I plan to eventually have a counter sleeve that depicts the epic battle that led to peaceful times. There you go, the entire lore right there. That's amazing.
Awesome.
Wait, which tattoo sleeve is this? Is it the one with a lot of creatures in it? The one with the dragon and there was a lot of animals in it. I don't usually do like a lot of I don't do a lot of tattoo art because I don't have a background in tattoo, so I always afraid of getting something wrong and then their tattoo doesn't come out right. Yeah, it's not easy because the art wraps around their arm or their body. It's cylindrical. You don't view it flat on a piece of paper like
sure.
How you would art.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember you.
Good. I was gonna say I worked across the way from a tattoo shop one time, and they were like the #1 officially licensed tattoos for Star Wars or whatever. So they got all these requests. They were very, very busy all the time, that shop. It's an interesting art form.
Yeah, it is, right. Which is why actually if people always ask me like, oh, can I use your artwork for a tattoo? Like they want to just use some piece of artwork that I've done and they want to tattoo it on their body. I'm always like, yeah, sure, go ahead, because it's just like they like it so much they're willing to permanently put it on their body. That's like, wow, this.
Now, I have to tell you a funny story about that just actually came up today because I talked to different people in the industry, and the Hungry Gamer, who did some of our playthroughs, wrote to me and said that he was watching the campaign. He said, "Peter, I think you should get a dragon tattoo if the funding reaches X amount." And I don't have any tattoos, so that would have to be a very high amount to do a dragon tattoo. But it was a very funny conversation.
I'm down.
Yeah. What?
Let's do it.
Oh yeah, Manny, are you gonna put yourself on the stretch goal map for tattoo?
I don't have any tattoos either because I'm super hairy, but we'll make some space somewhere. I mean, if I'm ever gonna get one, and I've kind of always wanted one, it would definitely be at this moment in time, just to remember this craziness.
Oh my god!
I don't know. What should I get?
The Manny, the flat Manny.
No, I don't. Not flat Manny. Or back tattoo? No. Arm. I could do the arm. Oh, maybe I should I'll get the coin. All the Hydra head, as we call it, the 6 dragons.
Oh, really?
There's another request for Flat Manny.
You underestimate how popular Flat Manny is. You know?
I did. Dude, I don't know. I'm considering it.
I thought a while back that I would maybe do a tattoo if I could draw it, because then it would be kind of special to have something that you drew yourself.
I thought the same thing, and I drew it, and then I chickened out. But you know,
I was so excited to see the tattoo on the proprietor of what is now Fogo de Char, the deli. I love that shop. I think that's so great that there's a tattoo featured right there.
Yeah, she had a tattoo. It was like some kind of like a scaly dragon-like thing going around her arm, I think.
I did suggest that the dragon needed a human tattoo, but Sandara didn't listen to me.
They have scales. Why would they?
Harder.
So, Peter, can you highlight the levy question? Well, I don't know if this is the right time to ask, but I just wanted to know if you guys have thought about or any other dragon types in the game that did not make it into this game, and if so, which ones?
Oh.
So the war dragons were something that she definitely had worked on, like she said in the beginning. If you were here, and the iron dragons worked on armor and swords and all that stuff, but we took the track of a more peaceful and happy sharing town, and not all of the dragons were in the original lore. In fact, I think the plant dragons, if I'm not wrong, they were just in your other art. But we pretty much needed to bring them in because they're so cute. There's one picture of the plant dragon facing off against the cat on a wall that that sold me on the plant dragons forever. It's just hilarious.
Okay, so it says, "Where's our cheese dragons?"
Oh, not the cheese dragon again.
The cheese dragons. There was a whole discussion in the Discord about where who takes on the dairy. Is it the bakers and they're sort of handling all the dairy products, or is it the chefs because they're taking care of it? It was a very funny thing to have a discussion in Discord about that, about which dragons are taking care of the dairy.
What's the answer?
The cows.
I said the chefs because I said ultimately the chefs are. I tried to point out that Sandara may correct me, but what I learned when I was doing this is that I thought the plant dragons were taking care of grilling the veggies or cooking up some good veggie options, but no, it's the chefs, which are called meat dragons, are taking on all of the delicious entrees, right?
Yep.
So if there is if there is an entree that's with cheese, unless it's a dessert, I would assume that the cheese goes to the chefs.
Yeah, because it's something you eat and you cook it, right? So the chefs will be in charge of that.
I mean, if you've ever seen cheese being made, it kind of looks like a potion dragon would be in charge of it because it's just a big old vat of milk. So,
We have a new contender in the mix. The potion dragons, the masters of liquid. One of my favorite dragon types, of course. Soup dragons was also just mentioned right now. But that would definitely be, well, that's a question for potion or chef or meat, right? So that the chef.
God. Can you guys hear the knocking? I'm so sorry about it.
Yeah. They're building the tailor shop, everybody. Don't worry about it. It's all good. By the end of this, we're gonna have a built shop.
Oh my god. Yeah, maybe you guys should mute my microphone. It's so
You might be able to mute it on yours, on your end.
Okay.
Should we just mute you for a second and then ask? Well, we'll cover some other topics.
I can, if she sounds like she's muted, I can talk, or we can talk a little bit about like how the art affected the game and vice versa.
Sure.
I mean, we did talk a little bit about how the position just of the shops and the size of them changed the whole board, but a lot of gameplay stuff just came out of looking at the art and deciding what we wanted it to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the art was there first, and the game idea that I had was about sharing an engine, and that was about as far as it went. But the hominess and the feeling of sharing and gifting stuff and all that kind of just came from every time she draw something. It just felt like that's what these dragons would do. They would share. Right. They would give each other stuff. And
I know originally we had lots of items that we were going to do. It was going to be crafting recipes and creating items and doing stuff. So I know that was always there in your town builder, right? But then it was always a back and forth. It was like sometimes we would think of a building like, oh, we've got to have a bank, right? I mean, there has to be a bank. And then we would go to Sandara. The bank might not have had any flames, so that's one that maybe wasn't in her mind. But then there would be another way where she's doodling something, and it's like, whatever that is, that's a new shop. Like that's a shop, you know. And I love seeing those two things come together because I haven't put a big piece of art of this up, but I will in an update put up an art of the post office. So I really want everyone to see the post office because to me that was one of the most interesting shops where Mandy and I came up with a power first for we were thinking of the post office like something fun to go do do deliveries and do stuff at the post office, and then when we handed back to Sandara. I don't know, Manny. Did you suggest that it would only have fancy dragons? I think that was a Sandara.
I think she just made them all fancies.
So all of a sudden, the post office.
The gift wrapping part came from her drawing fancy dragons. So all of that was just the idea that they like to party. So yeah.
So wait till you all see the post office. It's absolutely adorable. It's a bunch of fancy dragons gift wrapping packages. Oh. It's so good. I will show a lot of art. Don't worry, because there's someone saying more art, and we still have 14 days to go on this campaign. It's going so fast. I can't even show all of the stuff. And there are so many shops that are charming. So we'll have all of those to show you.
I think on the subject of the fancy dragons, I think the tailor shop and the post office are the only two shops where they're working, right? Like the rest of the time, they're just like, I don't know, slacking off somewhere.
Yeah, they're the.
Yeah, that's actually how I do all the demos. When I explain it, I say, okay, so these are the fancy dragons. They don't work. They just like to celebrate with you at the end of the game when you've done all the point gathering stuff.
Yeah.
They're the artists. That's, they choose if they want to be tailors. That's their choice.
That's true.
Someone did ask about can all dragons fly or just the fancy dragons? Actually, none of them fly, even the fancies, right, Sandara?
Yeah, they can kind of glide if they have to, but yeah, they don't really have like true flying abilities. Maybe the fancies, their wings do look big enough, but yeah,
It's
but they
so much work.
can't fly. Too much work.
It's a very interesting thing about the flight because you don't necessarily assume that when you look at it, but then, it doesn't necessarily pop in your head either. But they aren't, if you look at every shop, they're not off the ground. So yeah, it's very interesting when you see it.
Yeah.
And I think it grounds them too. It's like literally and metaphorically, it makes them more like they're in the shop. They're not soaring above it and all that. So
yeah,
I like it. Falling with style, exactly. Someone is
there we go.
Catapult, yes.
Yeah, if there's ever a festival where there's being shot out of a cannon, that would be pretty fun. And a roller, someone suggested roller coasters in one of the in the updates, so we might have to do some. I know hot air balloons was suggested, so there's some fun things.
I actually would like to see one of the Iron Dragons trying to fly. I imagine him building his own cannon just so that he could try and fly again. That'd be amazing. Oh boy.
All right, I think my neighbors have stopped for a bit, so let me just explain what's going on with this artwork. So again, to add to the the color and all that, for shadows, I don't use gray. Like if you know how to use Photoshop, then I don't multiply the shadows for gray, but I use blue color instead. So everything looks again very light because the shadows are not grayish or very desaturated. It's blue. So the shadows are either blue or they are warm color. So it's like either they're reddish or they're orangey or something like that. Yeah. So I try to keep all that to a minimum.
That's a good tip right there. The blue is fantastic, and I love the pinks and the colors going on right here. It's gorgeous in the back too.
Yeah, this is the first time we get to see this in action too, so it's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah,
you guys always just see the final product, right? Well, you guys do get to see the sketches. And
yeah,
I guess our Kickstarter backers are also getting to see the sketches because it's like this is too fast for us to actually, I still have not finished the final artwork for a lot of these yet. So
fun question about whether or not the dragons celebrate winter solstice, fall equinox.
Do they
we haven't really defined their holidays, have we?
I mean, they're not on Earth, right? So like they probably have like different kind of festivals. I don't know.
They celebrate. Yeah, there was a really great suggestion where someone said jack-o'-lanterns, which I think would be very pretty to see. So someday perhaps we'll have to see what they're doing various times of the year. Oh, we've gone back on mute for Sandara because the tailor shop is being built.
I see, like someone asked here, Crazy Cujo, I can imagine a dragon holding its arms out for their human coworker to pick them up to reach higher places. I do want to say they have claws, like they got some kitty action of climbing stuff. So maybe the fancy dragons are too lazy, but everyone else can probably climb up the sides of the walls. But it still would be adorable to have. Well, look at the bread dragon in creme brulee. They just come out on the arm and make your little dessert. So yeah, no, you're not wrong. I like it.
Someone's asking about whether or not we'd see snow, and I think that's a good point. There, because there might be one of the things that was established very early on is that all the dragon types were going to be that it's called Flamecraft, and that we were going to stay in fire. We weren't going to go to ice. We weren't going to go to water. All those. There's other lore, obviously that could happen, but. So when we talk about ice, I think that sure it would be charming to see them ice skating, but that would sort of go against the at least Sandara could say whether or not she thinks so. I think it would go against the just the the flame that we're trying to show all the time.
And the craft.
Yeah. The because it's Flamecraft, right? So I don't really want to like dilute the idea with adding all the other stuff, although it's fun, right? So
It is fun.
we wanna keep it tight, you know. Keep it tight. Keep the idea tight.
No, seriously.
We'll save this for the RPG or whatever.
I was gonna say, without keeping it tight, we'd be everywhere because there's so many places to go here. It's
because if you don't restrict it, you could just go like everywhere. You know? It would be it would be.
But that
very
being
hard to
said,
control.
you know, it's always fun too when backers get into a game. I worked on Dwellings of Eldervale, and people started writing the backstories of the lore of how this faction got there, and that's so much fun. So if anybody has those kind of things and wants to write stuff, they can post it in our Facebook group or post it on BGG and come up with ideas that'd be fun to share. I know someone was mentioning they're working on a lore book already, so it's fun to see how people get inspired. It certainly is a world that we're going to be fleshing out as we go. So it'd be fun to share it and see where it goes. And someone's saying Frostcraft. All ice all the time. Yeah, we'll save the ice cream cones for Frostcraft.
Someone was asking about a hatchery or how these dragons are born. Do you have any lore on that, Sandara, that you worked on, or?
No. Like I said, a lot of people ask a lot of questions that I never actually thought about. You know? But hatchery, I think I did think a little bit about it. Like, you know, there would be like hatcheries, but where you know the dragons they are born, and then you know they go out, and once they reach a certain age, and then they go out into the world, that kind of thing. But it was just never expanded on the idea. It was like a passing thought, you know.
It's so cool to hear everyone get inspired, because you know there's another one. There's a town based off of Flamecraft in someone's Pathfinder campaign.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That would be amazing.
I want to hear how that goes.
Yeah. And how many TPKs? Oh my goodness.
And then someone's saying putting some lore in the art book. We are definitely going to have some lore in the art book. So the art book is where it's at. We've been focusing on the game, and certainly the game with Manny here. I'll say the game is where it's at. No, but the art book is also going to be something else. I'm excited for how that will share some of the early sketches and stories.
Yeah.
Hey, I got all those poems. They got to go somewhere.
That's right. Manny has written so many poems. If you've been on our Discord and you say the word Flamecraft in the Flamecraft channel or the general channel, you get one of Manny's poems that he's written, which are fun. And we'll have to do more because it's fun to see new ones.
Oh my goodness.
They're a lot of fun.
My favorite are when Peter texts me at like 1 a.m. and says, "I need this for the update. I need
another poem." I'll have to put the poems in some of the next couple updates. They were quite fun.
Yeah, Peter, you never sleep. You know, I'm like, it's 9 p.m. for me, and it's like 4:30 a.m. for him, and he's like, hey,
How can you sleep when there's a world of dragons that needs your attention? There's a good question about the art book, and it's a really good one because actually it came up yesterday. I was talking to a retailer who wanted to buy the art book, and I said, "Oh, you can't get the art book because it is for the Kickstarter only." And I didn't mark that on the Kickstarter, but I suppose it's more like it's not officially exclusive. But I don't think we're gonna. This is just we're making it this one time. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to. Put that because I don't know that for sure, but I believe this will be rare. So as far as anyone wondering, if you're interested, you should get it now because the art book it's going to be a one of a kind type of print, I believe.
Yeah. just for the Kickstarter, right? Because after
Yeah.
that, that's it.
I mean, if there's another Flamecraft, if there's another lore book about the artisan dragons, I think it might be a different book someday. But I think this book, the one we're making, is to celebrate the Kickstarter, and so that one I think will be limited.
Yeah.
Especially all the, all the sketches and stuff that we might have for the game. That will probably be only.
But I will say there's some people obviously that might cause some stress. There will be a pledge manager that's open for a while. So if you are unable to, like, you want to add it later, that's going to be an option. So don't have to stress about getting the art book right this second. You can add the art book now and add it to your pledge, or you can also say, oh, now I want to get it. And we'll have more details about the art book, hopefully in the pledge manager too, so you can see the size and the paper and the cover information.
Mm-hmm. All right, I don't really have anything to add for what I'm doing right now. I'm just coloring the stuff. Yeah.
We should talk about we should talk about whether or not we're going to finish the shop or we're going to cut it off at a certain time, because I know we've gone past what you originally said. So do you want, just tell us how you want to do this?
For me, it's okay. For me, it's okay. I can go on for a little while more. Yeah.
Well, we're getting work done on the game, everybody.
I know.
Yeah, because I have to do this anyway. Eventually.
So when the tailor shop's done, we'll have to put it on. We'll share it on social media. Like, well, there's a new shop in town. Now there's a question about clothes. This is actually one of the first time. Oh, it's a question about do clothes? They have clothes for people in this shop. Like, how do the shops, do they cater to dragons and humans at all the times?
I guess maybe they could have clothes for humans, but there's no space to show that because these guys are taking up all the space.
This is the dragon section of the tailor shop. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, the dragon section. Yeah, there's no space. There's just no space to show everything, because like right now I've turned off the UI, but with the UI the space is even more restricted.
I'll take objection to that, Will. I'm multitasking on the Discord and on the Kickstarter right now.
I am not.
Manny deserves a break. He's designed this amazing game. He can take a night to watch the art.
Oh, is Manny going up?
The lore of this shop came just from seeing Taylor the Fancy Dragon, because before that I assumed it was the Taylor owned the shop, but there's no chance. So if this is Taylor's shop, this is a dragon shop. But you can name them whatever you want in your game. God, I like how it just takes a couple strokes and now it has more depth.
Yeah, but it's really rough though. I'll have to redo, when I do the cleanup. So I will completely turn off all these layers, and then I'll redo the line work, and I'll redo all the color as well. So
that's a very nice comment, by the way. Sorry. Comments like that will get you more coasters. I mean, not more coasters than 2, but coasters like 2. Thank you very much for that comment. We're having fun. If anyone can't tell, this has been fun to do this campaign and to interact with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder this one, the humans constantly bumping their heads on the ceiling. In certain shops, it's like Gandalf in a Hobbit type of shop, right?
Yeah, but the humans own the shop, right? So it'll be like
yeah.
Human
They
size.
just, again, this is the dragon section.
Yeah. But the dragon only places like the roost and the which was the other one? The springs. Yeah. That one is scaled to the dragon, so the humans will not go there because it's too small for them. So
yeah, we showed art, and I actually had it on the stretch goal map wrong for a while. I had typed in Spellfire Spa, but I didn't type it as springs. So if anybody's wondering, that's so the springs and the dragon tail roost, which are on, I think, update 2. Those are dragon only shops, so they don't have any humans in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose, even though the statue is more open, it's not specifically dragons only, but that is showing only dragons as well, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
So there's a couple places where they can just be themselves.
Hang out. Get some dragon fun in.
This does lead to lots of questions, though. You know what I mean? Like when you start thinking about it, there's smaller doors where the dragon goes in. I was always imagining that when the dragon shows up at the baker, at the bakery, they deal with the human-sized world that they're in. But maybe some of the shopkeepers are nice about it and build a little door.
Would it make a difference to the dragons though? I mean, like they just walk straight in anyway. It's not like they need a small door. I mean, like the humans would need a bigger door, but the dragons, they can just use whatever door they want.
I definitely imagined that there were little doors all over the place for them to go into their little rooms and have privacy. Yeah. Just random door somewhere that he can go through.
This is funny.
Or she.
Because dragons. That's the ultimate message of this campaign. Because dragons.
Do they get their own size department, Sandara?
What? Their own size department? What do you mean?
Apartment. Like, do they have their own place?
Oh, the roost, right? Isn't the roost their place? Like
they live in the roost.
Yeah, they have this place that they go to.
So this is another example of art, sort of the game mechanics and the art going back and forth. But so Sandara drew the roost, which was Manny suggested the roost. Then Sandara drew the roost with just the dragons in it, which then inspired Manny to look at the roost as, okay, they're sleeping when they're there, so we don't want the roost to be a place that you can enchant. You can't make noise or make it, so that actually specifically was, we were making a mechanic for the dragons being placed face down on the roost. So when you go to the roost and you place a dragon, it goes face down. You get points for successfully, just like regular shops, and finding the dragons their home. You get points for getting a dragon to the roost and happily placing it there. But then it's face down. It doesn't count towards certain goals, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
What's the rent like? You pay in meat and iron and bread. It's all good.
The bread dragons get it really easy. I mean, the crystal dragons stuff probably worth the most.
Well,
the bread
they just show up and
for bread.
The crystal dragons just show up and light everything up for free, right? So they turn on the lights, keep things running. I don't know if when someone was asking about whether or not the dragon spoke English, and one of the bits of lore that makes the game work is that the players are flame keepers, and they're the ones that can speak in this language. It's something you're born with, kind of like you're a wizard, Harry. So the flame keepers can understand the dragons and talk to them. So that's how you get to know what they want to do, who they want to be, where they want to go, and you get up to the shop they want to be at. So normal humans, the dragons can understand what they're saying more or less. Whether they listen or not, that's a different story. But the humans don't really understand the dragons. It's only the Flamekeeper humans that get it. Dragon speak. How about, here's a good one from Levy Dolman here. The tailor shop doesn't seem fireproof. Do they need to make everything in town fireproof, Sandara?
No, they don't. The dragons, I mean, like the flames, the fire is such a fundamental part of them. Like they can control their fire perfectly. There's no chance of it going out of control or anything like that.
They're professionals.
That would be very unprofessional of them to let it get out of control. So yeah, I think usually that I don't think there will be any like accidents or anything like that.
There was someone who asked when we first started working on it. They said, "Is there any chance that a dragon could just go?" Because I had mentioned that they're not like the old dragons, right? They're not like these fire-breathing destroyers of towns. And then someone said, "Well, could they accidentally do that?" I was like, "No, no, no. They're not gonna do anything."
Yeah, they won't. It's not that kind of game. It's like they're just really nice.
I couldn't tell whether or not they were disappointed or excited when they found that out.
Fire 'em up. Someone was asking whether the cards are double-sided. I think you can see the backs of the cards on the Kickstarter page, right? You can see.
In the what's in the box?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have all the backs.
So if you go to the Kickstarter page, you can definitely check that out. It's a little more stylized town and dragon. Like these dragons have a lot of good branding. So everything with the Dragon Made logo is made by a dragon, so you know it's unique and special.
Okay, so anyway, this picture is more or less done. I will probably add in a few small details here and there, but yeah, it's pretty much there already. So something for the window here, maybe.
Well, that we can see if anyone's got any more questions, and then we'll call it. It's been really fun to hang out while you draw.
All right. Yeah, if there's any other questions, we can answer them.
And of course, what's also great is, and we have Sandara's social accounts, the DeviantArt, the Instagram. Those are on the Kickstarter page in a section called Art of Sandara. You can, what I find absolutely wonderful about working with her is just the accessibility. So if you write to Sandara on Instagram and Facebook, you just get a lot of people who do that and answers comments, and it's so great to have that. So if you think of more questions, certainly the team, will answer, but Sandara is also so awesome to talk to about dragons.
Yeah, but just a caveat is that I don't like check at all hours
Sure.
of the day, so
Yes.
it takes some time because
She's not up like I am at all hours.
Yeah.
So, but I love how you communicate with your fans. I think that's so great. There's people who are backing this Kickstarter who said, I have been talking to Sandara for ages. So that's so great to see that.
Yeah, that's great. But for this one, it's like there's a lot of things to do for the Kickstarter. That's all I can say.
Yes, we should also caveat that probably not now is the best time, but I just meant in general, it is such a great thing to see. Every once in a while you put up prints and you're drawing different things besides Little Tiny Dragons, and there's a great. If people are not following you on Instagram, I would absolutely recommend it because it's fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
And but during the Kickstarter, if there's any more questions that come up, you think of something that you wish you asked during the stream, we do have a Facebook group. Some people are streaming from that Facebook group that a lot of people ask questions in there. And of course, the Kickstarter, which is live for 14 more days. Exciting. There is plenty of us answering questions in there.
Well, this is my favorite part.
Look at this part. What just happened to the dragons?
Nothing happened to them. I'm just adding a very, very light overlay layer over them, so that you have this very slight texture to it.
Yeah.
This is without, and this is with, and it's very low opacity. So you get a very, very slight warm tint to everything because of this layer, and it kind of helps to unify the colors as well. Because right now the colors are a little bit all over the place. Yeah. So anyway, for this demo, it's pretty much that's it. Like when I do a rough sketch, it's pretty much like this, and then after which I will show it to Manny and Peter and Brett, and then if there's any changes that need to be made, I'll make the changes before I go to do the final artwork for it. Yeah. So pretty much like this.
Thank you very much, and it was our pleasure, everybody.
That's awesome.
Seeing this world come alive is fantastic. It's certainly an honor for Brad and I. and Manny too. So thank you, Sandara.
Thank you.
This was fun.
Yay!
Yay!
More dragons. Oh yeah, we should we'll show the bread dragon again if people haven't.
For those who have not seen it.
The one bread dragon in existence right now until we make a lot more.
We can look at the
And just so everyone knows how all the rest of our children are so jealous of your son.
Oh my goodness. My son is like, oh, I want that dragon.
My son says he will pay $20 for this dragon.
Well, I have good news for him.
Yes. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And
All right,
we'll
thanks,
see you
everyone.
on the Kickstarter. All right.
Everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.